What's up, Spellslingers? My name is Garion John Wells.
I'm Drew Flitton.
And I'm Cory Janibagian.
And this is Untap
Upkeep.
Drink. Beer up. Today we're going to continue our mini-sode series on how to play Magic the Gathering. With me, as always, I've got Cory and Drew. What's going on, boys?
What up, what up?
How you doing, guys? Today we're going to talk about the stack and priority. But before we get into that, I've got a special surprise for Gary, and I've kind of hinted at it throughout the day that we've been hanging out.
We've been here for 6 hours, and he's been dragging me along the string. I'm ready.
So a few months ago, you introduced me to a specific beer.
One of your favorites or no?
It's been top up there. It's pretty fucking good. So that was the organic chocolate stout from Samuel Smith.
Oh, yeah.
From Samuel Smith's. You also previously to that, I believe, introduced me to another beer, and that was
Another Samuel Smith.
also Samuel Smith's, the organic raspberry. This is a handcrafted fruit ale. And what did you say at the time?
Happy. So I drank the chocolate first, drank the whole thing. I actually drank it with my mom. We were both sitting down for a stout, and we thought, you know what, this one sounds great.
Sounds like a bonding experience.
Oh, yeah. We were having a great time. We were watching a football game. It was all good. Then we drank the raspberry one sometime after during the, end portion of the game, and we thought, those two were both delicious, but they both would be so good together.
Well,
Ooh.
surprise, surprise.
We got both of them here.
So before we do this, I do want to give a shout out to Trevor over at Tap and Fill, who has broadened my horizons. And by that, I mean that generally I'm someone who, when I get a nice whiskey or a nice beer or something like that, you drink it as the brewer or as the distillery has intended, which is to drink it as is. But Trevor has always been an experimental scientist, as it were, when it comes to beer, mixing and matching, and has introduced me to a variety of beers and beer combinations that I would have never tried on my own. So
it seems like it's a pretty taboo thing for a lot of people to mix beers specifically.
I think there's a lot of good things you can do, but I think there's even more bad things. I think it's really hard to mess up.
I think it's really easy to mess up.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But
now, you've had both of these, though, right?
I've had both of these, and they both were fantastic.
They seem like they'll
organic
mix,
chocolate
right?
stout was basically like chocolate milk for adults.
The best way that I can explain it is it's like a cake batter with very little sugar. You know what I mean? It's not that chocolate milk you get as a kid where you dump the Hershey's in there, but it's all cocoa, all rich.
And
dear God, it's so good.
the raspberry ale was fantastic. Just a nice, strong, fruity flavor with just light beer components, not like super hoppy, not malty, just a very, very flavorful beer.
Yeah, it's important to note that this is a raspberry ale. It's a raspberry fruit ale, not a raspberry sour.
Right.
Which I think could make or break this experiment. You want to crack them open? You ready to go?
Yeah, so
I'm so stoked for
See,
this.
I haven't tried
get-
either of these beers, so I
never had
so
either.
first thing we're going to do
Well, then I'll give you. We should give
is
you a
that
little.
we'll give
sippies,
Cory
yeah.
a taste so that he knows where we're coming from.
Okay, we're going in. Raspberry ale. Smells like a wine. Looks like a wine.
Kind of a dark maroon red.
Oh my God.
It's up there on my beer list.
It does not taste like a wine.
No.
It tastes like a raspberry.
See,
Like,
that's
I don't even taste any alcohol. Like, it's just
yeah. There were a
delicious.
couple different raspberry ales that we tried that night. We bought like 4 different beers and shared it between 3 of us to kind of try some stuff out. This one stuck out to me because it doesn't taste like raspberry flavoring. It tastes like a bowl full of raspberries.
Just like eating raspberries with a little bit of carbonation.
Oh my
Yet all that tartness. Ooh, yeah. This is good.
It's
Ooh, man,
fantastic.
this is dangerous.
All right. Gary, will you hand me another glass?
Yep. Here's another one. Her.
So I'm going to pour this real quick, and I want you to just smell it at first.
Okay, so this is the chocolate.
Yep. And again, they're both
Give you about the same
Samuel Smith.
Just give her a nice smell.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what you guys can't see is just the smile that Cory just immediately
so this
takes.
looks like chocolate. It smells like an actual chocolate bar. I'm going in. Oh, God. This does just taste like chocolate milk.
It's very good.
How did they do this?
Samuel
This is-
Smith
this
really
is
kicks some ass in
magic.
this series, yeah.
All right, so with the power of movie magic, and by that I mean Garion editing and post, thank you very much, we're going to mix and match. All right, so the first taste here is going to be a 50-50 mix of the chocolate stout and the raspberry ale. And Garion, you are the person that inspired this.
Dive in.
Is it everything you wanted?
Okay, I'm going.
Oh my god! So you know those chocolate oranges that they make, and they make the raspberry kind?
The raspberry
It's
sticks?
exactly
Yep.
like
Holy
that.
This is
Yeah.
a game changer.
This is this is legitimately everything I wanted out of this beer.
Yeah, this is exactly what I thought it would be when I went. Shit, those would go together.
To be fair, I did not know how this was going to turn out.
Well, yeah, honestly, when I made the suggestion, I thought, oh god, that'd be so good. They taste like they should go together. But almost everybody that I told it to, don't mix beers, don't do it. It's so
Yeah.
gross. Don't mix beers. You know. So there
These
were
two.
a lot of people telling me never to try this. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, put it on the podcast. Y'all should try it because this is good.
This is too good.
Damn. I will say it's really rich. So I would consider this more of a dessert type of thing.
Oh, I consider both of these beers dessert beers anyways.
Definitely, yeah. These are incredibly sweet and rich. But they're so damn good.
All right, Garion. Would you say that this has lived up to the hype? Is this everything you ever wanted? Is this the desired outcome?
Truly, I know it sometimes can sound like you're overhyping things because we're on a show, we're doing this is top tier 1 fucking beers. This is super good. I really, really like it. And these two probably would make my top 10 beers by themselves, but I think the mix has to make the list too. Like it's that good. Chocolatey, fruity, rich, super sweet.
It's everything that Garion wants in a
Yeah.
beer.
Good
honestly.
God, yeah.
By the sounds of it, like if Garion were to list off things he wants in a beer, I mean, sugary, sweet, fruity, and if you can give some sort of essence to the sweetness, you know, like he likes some of the stouts that I've brought on. So chocolatey is kind of the modem.
Yeah, when the stouty kind of beers move more towards the chocolate and a little more away from the coffee kind of flavors, that's really where it hits the spot for me. So this chocolate stout has always been number 1 as far as like those stouts go.
The dark beers for you.
Good God, this is delicious. I'm having a great time.
I mean, I didn't even know. I had zero expectations.
Corey did not know
and
what was going on
Oh
in
my
this
God.
So he got to try not just one, not two, but in fact 3 new beers.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
This is one hell of an episode for you.
I'm glad.
Yeah. This. Oh God.
I'm glad that I was able to bring this experience to both of you. Personally, I'm enjoying myself because this chocolate stout was like honestly like maybe top 5 beers for me. Like it's up there. This was an incredible beer on its own, and the raspberry is my favorite fruit. And to put it in a beer in a way that you actually taste the fruit rather than like the fruit essence, as it were, like kind of like a hint of the fruit, is impressive in and of itself. But damn, it's a good beer on its own.
Yeah.
And
A
to mix
lot of
these two together.
A lot of beers taste like beer with a little bit of raspberry.
Right.
But this tastes like raspberry
Like a
and no
hint of
beer. It's
malt.
just
Yeah.
raspberry.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's just flavor.
All right,
Well,
guys. Now that we're-
Unfortunately, we do have to get back to the episode. So I guess we'll talk about the stack and priority. So first off, we got priority.
So what I will say as a disclaimer for this episode is that this understanding the stack and priority is like the first level up moment that you get as a Magic player. When you go from the basics of, hey, I know how to attack, I know how to cast things, and then you start realizing how things actually play sequentially.
Yeah.
And learning how to best manipulate your cards and spells to fit that order, that's when you start becoming a Magic player.
Yeah. Learning when to respond, when not to respond.
Learning just how to sequence.
Yeah.
In
It's still really hard.
Yeah. Like even for advanced Magic players, there's a lot of decks that rely so much on these principles of Magic that they're just parts that you have to learn, and knowing them makes you just a significantly better player.
Yep.
So first one we're going to talk about is priority. So what is priority?
In essence, priority is when and we use turns as, it's my turn and then Drew's turn and then Cory's turn. It's sort of turns within the turns. It's when a specific player is allowed to cast their spells. It's when they're allowed to act.
Right. And that's kind of the essence of it, is that it's when you're allowed to play spells. Yep. And so priority starts when the active player, and that's the player whose turn it is, gets priority. So this is a specific timing in turn sequence. So during the turn structure, there's specific moments when an active player will gain priority. Oftentimes it happens after something happens, and then they gain priority, whether it's an activated trigger or something along those lines. So the active player will get priority, and then after they have passed priority or after they have taken action, then priority moves. So
this was literally something we had to look up today because the priority is so specific. When we talk about when does priority happen, even us experienced Magic players weren't totally in a consensus. So when you have your first untap step, like we were talking about earlier before the episode, there is no priority, right? So it's not until the beginning of your upkeep that the very first priority even exists. During the upkeep phase is when priority becomes a thing, and it's for the active player.
And isn't that only when there's an upkeep trigger? Or is it just, that's when you can play
that
a
is
spell?
the first time that priority will happen. And you can only play or activate instant speed spells or abilities.
If there's an upkeep trigger, or just...
If there, like when you receive priority. So priority, the first priority received is actually during your upkeep, at the end of your upkeep, before your draw step.
Okay.
With or without triggers. That's just when
that
you
is,
first
that is just like
receive.
the first time.
That's
but with
when
triggers,
I can start going.
with triggers, like there's innumerable moments when priority can be obtained, but the first actual moment in a turn is during the end of your upkeep.
Gotcha.
And in essence, what that means is that during your untap step, you cannot cast spells, whether they are instant speed or not. You don't have priority, and thus you don't have the ability to cast your spells.
Right. So priority lasts until a player plays his spells or activates an ability, and or until a player passes priority. So if we make an assumption here that I am the active player, it's my turn, and I receive priority and I don't do anything, then that passes to Garion. And then if he doesn't do anything, that passes to Cory. But if anyone takes an action, then priority returns to the active player, and then I can act upon their action.
And then goes around again.
It goes around. And so basically priority lasts until all players pass priority. And then the next step or phase continues.
Which is why I said it's sort of like turns within a turn, because none of passing this priority ends a turn. It's only within that phase.
Yeah.
So priority can be passed around during a phase, and then the next phase starts, and again you go back to passing that priority.
Right. And so the reason why this idea is so important is because after playing a spell, a player may hold priority, and after a player holds priority, this allows them to continue casting spells in response to their own spells. So this is
So
the
in
player.
essence, if I cast a spell and someone wants to cast an instant, I can cast an instant first in response to my spell because I still have priority.
Correct.
Until I pass that priority.
Yeah.
So this is a crucial part of a lot of combo decks because the player receives priority after their own spell is put on the stack, which allows them to respond to that spell or ability, which allows them to continue their combo until, essentially they've finished with their combo. So often you will hear a player say, any responses. That is often them passing priority in order to allow other players to act upon what they've done. Otherwise, their spell is going to resolve, and if nobody has a response, that's essentially saying that they pass priority and that they allow the spell to resolve.
Yeah, I think most of the time you'll play a spell, you'll say any responses, nobody will say anything, and then it just goes. It's not like I'm going to pass my priority, and then Drew's going to say I passed my priority, and then Garion's going to say I passed my priority.
Right.
It's just
all of that
no
stuff
responses, nothing, keep going.
Yeah. It all sort of happens underneath like the veil of any response.
Yeah.
No, that's me passing priority all the way through all of the players and them coming back to me saying none of us did anything. Advance to your next phase.
The spell resolves, then it goes.
Right. So as Garion said, the person who follows in turn order will receive priority after priority is passed, and that will continue just until all players have passed priority, and then the spell or ability will resolve. So as long as a player has priority, they may play an appropriate spell, activate an ability, or pass priority. Those are the actions that they're allowed to take.
So when we say an appropriate spell, this basically means instant speed spells, anything with flash, and we'll get into that later. And abilities, most abilities are activated at instant speed. Activated abilities are abilities that are at instant speed most of the time, unless otherwise dictated. And these are usually you pay a cost and then do a thing, and it goes on the stack. So you can respond with those.
And these are on a card that you already have on the board versus a card that you have in your hand that you could play.
Right. And as Cory said, those are primarily going to be instant spells and spells with flash.
Yeah, these are just things to keep track of when you're trying to respond. You can't respond to an instant speed with a sorcery.
Right. It has to be something that can be played at instant speed.
Yeah. So that is the general concept of priority. The next part of this is the stack. So to give you the TLDR, too long didn't read. For the stack, it is first in, last out. So if you're a programmer or someone who understands coding, you understand what I'm talking about there. But let's give you some examples real quick. So first example I have is counterspells. So counterspells need to be played after the spell they targeted, but they will resolve first. So if Cory plays a creature, and I don't want that creature to come onto the battlefield, I can play a counterspell. That counterspell will go on top of the stack after the creature has gone on the stack. So it'll be the first spell to resolve from the stack. And its ability will happen, stopping the creature from happening.
Yeah, as an old school Magic player, we did not have the stack. And so when you think about it from a logistics standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. If you cast a creature, or I guess if you cast a counter spell first and it's on the stack, it's not affecting anything. There's nothing there for it to counter.
Yeah, there is no target.
There has to be a target. And so when you start literally stacking these things, there's a creature and then the counter spell is on there, and the counter spell has to see something on the stack in order to be able to counter it. And once you sort of wrap your head around that type of like a visual aid, it starts to make a whole lot more sense. And then you realize, wow, this is definitely the best way that it could be done.
Yeah, if you think of it as a literal stack, you're playing a spell, it goes onto the stack, and then people can respond with their spells or abilities that go on top of that. And then more abilities can keep going on and on and on. And then whatever's on top is going to go first, and it's just going to go straight down and resolve, and everything's going to be figured out.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it
so-
can get really convoluted.
Yeah.
But if if Cory plays a creature and I play a counterspell, my counterspell sees his creature, but Cory could then play a counterspell which sees my counterspell. So he counters my counter before my counter acts. And so you use the stack in order to manipulate what spells get to resolve, basically.
Right. So for a second example, I have here sacrifice outlets that are used in response to removal. So let's say that Cory casts Path of Exile on my Eternal Witness, but I have Ashnod's Altar out. So in order to stop Cory from getting the benefit that he wants, I need to sack Eternal Witness before it is exiled by Path. So in order to do that, I need to sacrifice Eternal Witness, and so that sacrifice effect goes on the stack before Path of Exile will. So in essence, I will then gain 2 mana, and Cory's removal spell will then fizzle because it has no legal target, because the effect of Ashnod's Altar has already resolved.
Yeah, so if you think of it, Eternal Witness is chilling, and then I play Path of Exile, so that is on the stack. Drew's going to respond and put his sack trigger on the stack. So his resolves first because it's on top.
Right. So the cost that I pay is to sacrifice the creature, and
So the creature
result
goes
of that,
to the graveyard.
Yeah, so his creature dies. He gets 2 mana from sacking it. And then mine resolves, but it doesn't have a legal target because there's no Eternal Witness anymore. And so it just goes away. It fizzles.
Right. And another thing to think about is, like Drew was saying in that example, not only is he trying to reap a benefit of getting 2 mana, but he also gets to have a creature in his graveyard where he could potentially manipulate it later instead of it being literally in exile, which means it's gone from the game. And so those are the types of things you're thinking about when you're learning how to manipulate the stack. What is best for you and how best to get that to happen?
When do you want to respond? Do you want to sacrifice your guy, or is it okay for him to get exiled and stuff like this? And do you want to keep that mana up for something else, or do you need to respond to this spell right now?
Right. So another thing I want to talk about is that while things are on the stack, you can respond to them in you can respond to them in sequential order. So what I mean by that is if there are 4 abilities or spells on the stack, 2 of those could resolve before you activate another ability or cast another spell to manipulate what's already on the stack. So the stack is an ever-evolving thing that you can still interact with so long as there's not split-second cards in the mix.
Right. When you think of instant speed, it literally is at any instant. So you could have those things stack up and all these things start to happen and the stack starts to empty. And then you decide, okay, at this point, that's the instant that I want to activate my ability.
Right.
Yeah.
So think back to the priority that we were just talking about. When spells resolve, players then will get priority afterwards. So it is at that time that you can interact with the stack as it is in the current state.
Yeah, so priority is almost like a turn stack within the stack.
Yeah, it's
one thing
basically-
resolves, we pass priority to everybody.
Everything goes onto the stack, and then we pass priority so everyone can put more things on the stack, and then we pass priority again so people get more and more things on the stack, and
Yep.
then it'll just
and then
start
each time
all
something
resolving.
resolves, you pass priority saying, do you want to respond to that resolving?
Yeah, and
no.
then-
Yep. So it can get complicated, but it's pretty easy to understand in the essence that it's first in, last out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the last point we're going to make here is that there are special cards that stop the stack as it is. And those are the split-second cards. So these are rare corner case cards, but they're very relevant to this discussion. So split-second cards are cast at instant speed, but stop anyone from casting another spell or activating non-mana abilities and putting them on the stack.
So it's basically like a block of the stack.
Right. Yeah,
Once
so
it hits the stack, nothing else
Yeah,
can
this is the
happen.
top of the stack. You can't put anything else on the stack.
Yep.
Almost. Triggered abilities resulting from casting cards with split second will still trigger and go onto the stack, but it's rare that, like that sort of interaction is actually going to happen. So as an example, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, because split second cards are instants, that ability will still go onto the stack. And players will still get priority so they can activate the mana abilities or perform special actions. And the example I have here is for being able to flip a morph creature. So there are a very select few special actions in the game, and the morph is the most common one since Cons of Tarkir Block came out.
And that's still a mana.
No.
You still have to pay mana
Morph is,
to flip them,
you
right?
pay mana, but it's not an activated ability. It's this weird thing. It doesn't use a stack.
It is literally
It's-
called a special action.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just happens.
And that's really the only reason it's not affected by split second card.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put simply, once a split second card is on the stack, almost nothing else can go on the stack until it resolves.
Yeah. They're really good to, like we mentioned before about combos, it's really good to stop combos and just interrupt everything.
All right. So this has been a very concise, hopefully, and quick overview of the stack and priority. Hopefully this has been educational for you. We didn't want to go too long on this one. We wanted to make sure that we said what needed to be said and nothing more.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be examples down the road of the filthy, dirty ways that you can manipulate the stack. But just know that this is basically how it functions.
Yeah, this is the simplistic version. But if you can remember these basics, then you should be able to get by pretty well.
All right, guys, as always, we like to tell you, don't drink and drive. Don't drink underage. At least don't tell me about it. We want everybody to be safe. We want everybody to, follow law, be legal, have fun playing this great game. We're glad you came to listen. Shoot us a comment or a like or whatever you want.
Let us know what strange brews you've been mixing.
Yeah. If you have any mixed beer combinations.
Yeah, if you're an adventurous
interested.
drinker. Yeah.
Like, don't tell us about the bad ones because I'm sure that somebody else has already told us.
Yeah, we could easily do that, but we want to know
could
the
mix
good
PBR
ones.
with a good beer. And we just, sorry.
It'd be even
We could mix
better.
Miller Lite with a good beer and just throw our money down the
40s.
drain.
Let's not.
Samuel Smith, you guys continue to impress me, even with beers you didn't even exactly make. So keep on doing what you do.
I honestly think I agree, though. I think I'd go chocolate stout, mixed, then the raspberry, but they're all really, really good.
Yeah, it's not necessarily been eye-opening because, like I said, I've got a friend over there who has been mixing beers for me and opening my eyes and introducing me to the possibilities. So thanks, Trevor, over at Tap and Phil. We really appreciate that. And Garion as well, because you have decided to, let's not necessarily say improve upon, but enhance your own alcohols in your own way. You got your Scotchy figs or your figgy Scotch, depending on which way you want to spin that. And that was pretty good.
The Scotchy figs weren't as good as the figgy Scotch.
I don't know if I agree with that. I liked the Scotchy figs.
They were harsh.
I don't think I liked either of them.
TBH.
I mean, the figgy Scotch.
I like figs. I don't like
no.
Scotch.
I don't think I liked.
Well, either way, I enjoyed it. So, Garion, with the inspiration for the episode here.
So as we always like to say on this podcast, guys,
Have fun.
But not too much.